Many IELTS candidates score low in the speaking test because they don't show the examiner the full range of their vocabulary. High-scoring candidates take a different approach. They use advanced idioms strategically to demonstrate that they have a high level of English. Strategy makes all the difference. We've helped thousands of students prepare this way through our IELTS packages. They discover how strategic preparation can completely change their results. In this video, you'll learn 20 powerful idioms that can help you achieve a higher band score in IELTS speaking. By the end, you'll know what these idioms mean and how to use them effectively in your test. Let's dive in! Let's start with idioms that help you express your opinion. Using idiomatic expressions when giving your personal view is one of the quickest ways to stand out. It works well in every part of the IELTS speaking exam. The examiners listen carefully for natural idioms. These expressions are a clear sign that a candidate has moved beyond textbook English and is using fluent, high-level language. The first idiom is on the whole. This is a brilliant way to introduce a general opinion or summary. It signals to the examiner that you are looking at the bigger picture and considering all aspects of a topic before drawing a conclusion. For example, on the whole, I think living in a big city offers far more opportunities than living in a small town. This expression sounds natural and confident and is far more impressive than simply saying generally or in general. It shows the examiner that your English is genuinely fluent and sophisticated. The second extremely common idiom is as a rule. This phrase is used to describe what usually happens or what is generally true. It is perfect for answering questions about habits, customs, or typical behavior. You could say, as a rule, people in my country tend to place a great deal of importance on family gatherings. This idiom demonstrates that you can describe general patterns fluently. This is a key feature of high-band responses, particularly in Part 1 and Part 3 of the speaking exam. The third phrase is by and large. This idiom means on the whole or considering everything. It is a wonderfully natural expression. High-scoring candidates often use it to give balanced, measured responses. For instance, by and large, I believe the advantages of remote working outweigh the disadvantages for most people. The fourth idiom is at the end of the day. This is one of the most natural expressions in spoken English for arriving at a final conclusion or stating what truly matters. You can use it when you want to cut through complexity and give your essential point. For example, at the end of the day, what matters most is that children feel supported and encouraged at home and at school. This is a particularly powerful phrase in Part 3 of the speaking exam, where you are expected to discuss abstract topics in depth and reach a considered conclusion. Here is another idiom for reaching a conclusion: when all is said and done. This expression indicates that you have arrived at your final view after considering all the facts and arguments. It has a very natural conversational quality. You might say, when all is said and done, I think most people simply want a good work-life balance and a sense of purpose in what they do. This idiom tells the examiner that you are wrapping up your argument in a sophisticated and fluent way. Now, let's look at some idioms for talking about effort and achievement. These are incredibly useful in Part 2 and Part 3 of the IELTS speaking exam. They work especially well when you are describing personal experiences. Another extremely common idiom is go the extra mile. This means to make more effort than is expected or required. It is a highly positive expression that shows enthusiasm, dedication, and hard work. For example, my teacher always went the extra mile to make sure every student understood the material, which is why I remember her so fondly. This idiom is particularly effective in part 2, where you are asked to describe a person or experience that had a positive impact on you. It is a great way to show your range to the examiner. The 7th phrase is, give it your best shot. This phrase means to try as hard as you possibly can, even if you are not certain of success. It conveys a positive, determined attitude. You could say, I had never tried cooking for a large group before, but I decided to give it my best shot, and it actually turned out really well. This idiom sounds completely natural in spoken English. It demonstrates to your examiner that you have a genuine command of informal, idiomatic language. So many test takers use basic vocabulary like learn or understand when describing the process of acquiring new skills. That is why the idiom learn the ropes is so valuable. It means to gradually learn how something works, especially in a new environment or role. For instance, when I started my first job, it took a few weeks to learn the ropes, but once I did, I felt far more comfortable and confident. This is a great idiom for answers about starting a new experience, beginning a job, or adapting to a new situation. These are all common IELTS speaking topics. Now, here is an important point. Many IELTS students think that knowing a few idioms is enough to achieve a high score, but it is not enough. To score high in IELTS speaking, you must know what the examiners are looking for. For example, you need to use advanced grammar correctly and understand what makes a high-scoring answer. That is exactly what we teach in our IELTS packages. Our students get step-by-step guidance on how to give high-scoring answers, so they feel confident and ready on test day. They learn how IELTS examiners assess their performance and what they need to do to meet all the criteria. Our IELTS packages include lessons for all tasks, sample answers, practice tests, and much more. If you're serious about achieving the IELTS score you need, click the link below to learn more. Now, let's continue with 12 more idioms that can help you score higher in IELTS speaking. Let's talk about in the same boat. This idiom means to be in the same difficult or challenging situation as someone else. It is a warm, empathetic expression that sounds completely natural in conversation. For example, when we first moved to the new city, all of my colleagues were in the same boat. None of us knew the area or had any friends nearby. Using this kind of relatable expression shows the examiner that you can communicate with authenticity and warmth. This contributes positively to the fluency and coherence category. It is also a great phrase for connecting a personal anecdote to a wider point, which is what examiners want to see in parts 2 and 3. Here is a wonderfully vivid idiom. Hit the nail on the head. This means to describe or identify something exactly correctly. It can also mean saying precisely the right thing at the right moment. You might say, I think that report really hit the nail on the head when it argued that poor urban planning is a major cause of traffic congestion. This idiom is excellent for part 3, where you are asked to comment on arguments, reports, or opinions. It shows that you can engage with ideas in a nuanced and sophisticated way. The next group of idioms can help you talk about change and challenges. These are particularly useful in part 3, where the examiner asks about social trends, problems, or developments. Being able to describe change, growth, and difficulty in a nuanced, idiomatic way is one of the key differences that can elevate your response to a much higher level. The next idiom on the list is a far cry from. This means that something is very different from something else. It is usually used in a way that highlights contrast or change. It is also an elegant alternative to simply saying very different. For instance, you could say, The way young people communicate today is a far cry from how people stayed in touch just 30 years ago. This idiom is perfect for answers about how things have changed over time. This is a common theme in part 3 of the IELTS speaking exam. The 12th phrase is get out of hand. This phrase means that a situation has become uncontrolled, excessive, or difficult to manage. It is a highly expressive idiom that works well when discussing social problems or challenges. You could say, the amount of plastic waste being produced globally has really got out of hand, and governments urgently need to introduce stricter regulations. Using this idiom shows the examiner that you can discuss complex issues with both fluency and precision. Moving forward, let's discuss on the rise. This is a clean, natural idiom for describing something that is increasing or becoming more common. It is more vivid than simply saying increasing. For example, mental health awareness is on the rise, which is genuinely positive, but access to professional support still needs significant improvement. This idiom is particularly useful in part 3. Here, you are often asked to comment on changes in society, education, technology, or the environment. Next up is turn over a new leaf. This idiom means to make a fresh start and change your behavior for the better. It is a wonderfully expressive phrase and can demonstrate your ability to use figurative language naturally. For instance, after struggling with his studies for several years, my brother decided to turn over a new leaf and approach his final exams with real commitment and discipline. This idiom is excellent for part 1 and part 2 answers about personal growth, change, or overcoming difficulties. The next common idiom is go hand in hand. This phrase means that two things are closely related and naturally connected. It is a very useful expression for discussing cause and effect or the relationship between two ideas. You might say, good nutrition and regular exercise go hand in hand. You simply cannot achieve long-term health without both. This idiom helps you demonstrate that you can make sophisticated connections between ideas. This is a key marker of responses that target a higher band score. Now, let's explore some idioms for discussing advantages, disadvantages, and decisions. These are essential for answering the kinds of questions that frequently come up in part 3 of the IELTS speaking exam. Examiners often ask candidates to evaluate two sides of an issue. Using idiomatic language to frame your analysis can help improve your score. By the way, if you want this channel to keep going, write yes in the comments, click like and subscribe. We only make videos that you actually want to watch. The next extremely common idiom is weigh up the pros and cons. This means to carefully consider the advantages and disadvantages of something before making a decision. It signals to the examiner that your answer will be balanced and well-reasoned. For example, before deciding whether to study abroad, it's important to weigh up the pros and cons carefully, taking into account both the financial costs and the personal benefits. This idiom is perfect for introducing a balanced discussion. It can help your answer sound mature and analytical. The next phrase is on balance. This is a sophisticated idiom used to give a final, considered judgment. You can use it after acknowledging different sides of an argument. It is much more impressive than simply saying overall or in conclusion. You could say, on balance, I feel that the benefits of social media for business and communication outweigh the risks, provided people use it responsibly. This phrase gives your conclusion a polished and analytical quality. Another phrase you can use is think outside the box. This means to approach a problem in a creative or unconventional way. It means looking beyond the usual or expected solutions. For instance, to address the housing crisis effectively, governments need to think outside the box and explore solutions that have not been tried before. This is a vibrant, well-known idiom that sounds natural in spoken English. It demonstrates your ability to use figurative language confidently when discussing abstract topics. Now, here's an elegant idiom: shed light on. This means to explain or clarify something, or to make something that was previously unclear easier to understand. It is a more elegant alternative to explain or clarify. You might say, recent research has shed light on the connection between sleep deprivation and poor mental health, which is something many people previously underestimated. Using idioms like this shows the examiner that your lexical resource is genuinely broad. It also proves that you can express complex ideas with natural, precise language. Finally, the last idiom on our list is come a long way. This phrase means to have made significant progress or improvement over a period of time. It is a warm, reflective expression that works beautifully when talking about personal development, technological progress, or social change. For example, women's rights have come a long way over the past century, though there is still a great deal of work to be done to achieve true equality. This is a powerful phrase that will set you apart from other candidates. It shows that you can reflect on progress using more advanced language. That's it! Those are 20 idioms that can help you score higher in IELTS speaking. If you want expert guidance for your IELTS preparation, check out our IELTS packages using the link below. Our packages include step-by-step guidance, practice tests, templates, and other useful resources to help you feel confident on test day. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you're notified when the next video comes out. Also, share this video with your friends so they can improve their IELTS score too. See you in the next video!